What kind of things you identify with will vary from person to person according to age, gender, income, social class, fashion, the surrounding culture, and so on. What you identify with is all to do with content, whereas the unconscious compulsion to identify is structural. It's one of the most basic ways in which the ego mind operates. So I remember as a child, struggling a lot with low self-esteem, never feeling like I was ever good enough. And so when the ego started to develop in me, it was always looking for external validation to always feel accepted and to fit in. And so I remember going through different phases in my life and trying to morph myself into whatever group I wanted to be in at the moment. And I remember one of the first groups I wanted to fit into was like my group of friends. And I just basically, had no opinion of my own and just followed whatever everyone else was doing. Whatever, music or sports or hobbies my friends were into, I was into as well. I remember my best friend, one of my best friends, she was really into hockey and especially the Vancouver Canucks. And so because she was into it, I was into it as well. Even though looking back, I realized, I knew nothing about hockey and I couldn't care less about hockey, but because she was so into it, I felt like I needed to also be into it as well to fit in. And so I basically was a product of my environment. And I remember when I was 16 years old, I finally dated a boy for the first time. And I was really surprised because I remember, at that time in my life feeling really afraid that I was never going to get a boyfriend, that I was never going to date anyone. And so I was really happy and surprised that it happened finally. But also what came with dating for the first time, I also had my first heartbreak, right? He didn't want to be with me anymore. And so it triggered this deep sense of shame in me. I felt like I just wasn't good enough. So that's why he didn't want to be with me anymore. And so it sent me down this shame spiral. And I felt like, because we were pretty different people, he was like a hipster and I was just this boring, quiet Asian girl, that I felt like I needed to be more cool, more interesting and outgoing for him to like me or to regret what happened. And so I felt like I needed to morph into his world. And at the same time, when I was 16, I made friends with a group of older kids. They were 19 at the time and lived on their own. And so they were the legal drinking age, so they could buy alcohol and they didn't have to deal with any parents or anything like that. And so I basically got into my rebellious phase and tried to morph into that group and try to be accepted by them as well. So I thought I had to be more outgoing and everything. So I started drinking, smoking pot, and just basically partied over the weekend and didn't come home on the weekends. And my parents got pretty pissed off about that, but I didn't care. And so I didn't listen, of course. So it was a pretty chaotic period in my life. And I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Mid-90s by Jonah Hill, but I really related to the main character because, I was going through my skater boy phase at the time, but also I never wanted to be at home. I always tried to find ways to get out of the house and stuff. And so my friends were there to help me with that. And, I just tried so hard to fit in and do whatever I thought they wanted me to do, in terms of I thought they wanted me to be more of an outgoing, fun party person. And so I was trying to be that. But in actuality, I was the opposite of that. I'm just more naturally a quiet, introverted type of homebody. And so I didn't really care about drinking and partying, but I thought that that's what I had to do at that time. I thought that's what teenagers do. And so I tried to fit in as best as I could. And so it became really exhausting. And it just wasn't worth it anymore for me. So I basically walked away from that. But I definitely learned a lot with that I realized that I was basically just trying to run away from myself because I was not comfortable in my own skin. I rejected myself, and so I was trying to be everything else. I tried to morph into whatever was in my environment at the time, whatever group I wanted to be a part of. And so that's basically just content that the ego identifies with, right? The structure was that I always felt like I needed to get my sense of self or get my sense of self-worth from whatever was out there. And so that's the structure of the ego. So doing the inner work and learning to disidentify with my ego has really helped me be more, accepting of myself, to be more comfortable in my own skin. And I think that's really important, and part of the spiritual journey is to find self-acceptance. I feel like no matter what changes, no matter, what persona I want to take on or mask I want to wear, like that can be really exhausting to try to find myself outside of myself rather than just being okay with who I am. When we do the inner work and let go and disidentify with the ego, we will find more peace with who we really are. And so thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.